Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another episode of Haqiqatjou, where we discuss religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and today we are discussing the bombing of Qatar by the Zionist terrorist state. And this is something that happened earlier today, just 6 or 7 hours ago, where Israeli fighter jets, 10 of them, advanced to Doha, the capital of Qatar, and struck a facility, a building that was hosting Hamas leaders negotiating a proposed hostage ceasefire deal from the United States. And the strike happened with 10 Israeli fighter jets that were flying from Israel to the capital in Qatar, and the strike happened. At least 5 staff members within the building were killed. One of the sons of the high-ranking Hamas negotiator and chief, Khalil Hayat, was also martyred, was also killed. So this is very shocking news. This is very a shocking escalation from Israel to strike within Qatar, a Gulf country. This came as a big surprise to everyone, that Israel would be so bold as to bomb one of the Gulf countries like Qatar, which is very close to the United States and actually hosts the largest military base in the Middle East, Al Udeid military base within Qatar. And Israel has engaged in this kind of airstrike. Very bold escalation from the Zionist state. So today we're going to analyze that, inshallah, on the show. What does it mean for the future of the Abraham Accords? Who exactly was coordinating? Because this was a coordinated attack. Who had foreknowledge of this? Who greenlit this? What was the United States' involvement? What was the involvement of the other Gulf states, the other Middle Eastern states? Because obviously these Israeli fighter jets had to cross the airspace of several countries in order to be able to reach the Qatari capital to initiate this strike. So that involves coordination, that involves standing down your air defenses in those countries in advance so that this Israeli platoon or this Israeli fighter platoon can cross your airspace to get to Qatar. So in one sense, the strike wasn't successful because the top Hamas leadership that were meeting, they survived. They were just in another building, so it was a neighboring building, so they weren't actually killed in this strike, assassinated in the strike. So what exactly are the larger geopolitical implications of this? We're going to analyze that all on the show, inshallah, today. So I'm glad to be with you. See a lot of you in the chat. Alhamdulillah, you know, I've been ill but gotten better this past week. I had a really bad flu. So I don't know why this year this is the second time I've gotten some kind of flu-like condition, and it's like really put me out of commission for days at a time. And it's in the middle of the summer. It's like hot weather. It's not even cold weather. And so I don't know, I chalk it up to being maybe getting older. My immune system might be weaker. I don't know exactly what's the deal, but I don't remember getting like the flu very often before, and certainly not in the summer, maybe in the fall or early in the spring, but in the summer. So I guess I'm just getting old. But alhamdulillah, I'm better now. And just want to remind you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to our newsletter. You can find a link to the newsletter in the description below. And don't forget to like the video. Leave a comment. We have our ranking system, the top fans. So the more comments that you leave and engage with the video, that contributes to you being a top fan. Right now, it seems like EZIO is the top fan at number 1 spot. He has a Free Palestine PFP profile picture. Kate is number 2, and OTR2TR is number 3. So you can compete for being the top fan, and I'll call you out, especially towards the end of the show. If you have a super chat that you want to contribute, that you want me to prioritize or comment, feel free to leave the super chat. It helps the channel, of course, and I appreciate all your contributions. So let's talk about, actually, before I get into the main story, I also want to mention that I have a couple of debates coming up. I also have a couple of collaborations that I did last week. I was traveling, or the week before last week. I did some traveling and did some podcasts. I did a podcast with Jake Shields. You might be familiar with him. He's an former MMA fighter. And he has a podcast, the Fight Back podcast. So I did a collaboration with him. I'll announce it on the channel whenever it's dropped. I did another collaboration as well, which you'll see and should be good. Inshallah, that'll come out maybe this week or next week. Also, I have a debate coming up this week on Thursday, inshallah. I will be debating a Jew, a Zionist Jew, and he has his own podcast and his own channel. His name is Adam King. So I'll be debating him on the Torah, on the concept of Greater Israel, the religious concept of Greater Israel. That's what we're going to be debating, inshallah. So that should be good. It's going to be live streamed on this channel, inshallah, on Thursday, around this time, actually. So be sure to tune in live for that. Would appreciate your support and your comments in the chat as that goes on. And it should be interesting. It should be an interesting discussion, respectful discussion with him. As long as he's respectful, I'll obviously be respectful as well. And then next week, inshallah, I have a debate with Avery of God Logic channel. And he's one of these Christian apologists. And I'm going to be debating him on the concept of the autistic dilemma, as we've termed it. The autistic dilemma, where I already debated David Wood on this, and Avery had a lot to say about that debate, because David Wood is kind of like Avery's mentor or his teacher. So I already debated the student, and I'm going to debate, or I debated the teacher, and I'm going to be debating the student, inshallah. And it's going to be live streamed. You can catch it live on the channel again next Monday, this coming Monday, inshallah. And that's going to be good. It should be spicy. It's going to have a open discussion period. We'll be going back and forth, and it's going to be fun, inshallah. And I'm the one who challenged Avery a couple of weeks ago, and then he responded to the challenge, and his response was weird, because he was saying that, yeah, well, Daniel, I'll accept your challenge. Just come on my stream anytime, and we'll have an impromptu debate. And I was thinking, like, why would I want an impromptu? Like, why can't we do a formal debate, like a structured debate? And why do I need to come on your stream? Like, let's have a moderated debate stream formally. So it was weird. And then he said that, I don't know if I'll be able to do as well as David. I'll try. So I think he's suffering from some confidence issues. I think he has some kind of maybe inferiority complex to David Wood. So I want to give Avery like a shot of confidence. I think you'll do great, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Put on your big boy pants, and we'll have a good debate. Don't be in David Wood's shadow. You're not David Wood's lackey or his ball boy. You're a man. You can do this. You can have a debate, and you'll do just as good as David Wood. Don't worry. Just as good. You're a big boy now. So I just want to give Avery that shot of confidence for the Monday debate, inshallah. On the autistic dilemma, it should be good. So a lot of good content coming your way. And what I'm really excited about is the continuation in our series, in our war on Wahhabism. You obviously are aware of the Wahhabism documentary. Now we have the second part coming out, a continuation. We're going to make it an entire series, obviously. And that's going to come out hopefully this week. I know I promised it last week or the week before that. But, you know, we just have to fine tune everything, make sure it's really at 100% on point. So, inshallah, that's going to come out hopefully this week, maybe by Friday. Maybe by Friday, that'd be great. If not, then by the weekend, inshallah. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss that coming out. And it's going to be very interesting. I'll give you the title of it. I'll give you the title so that you know what to expect. Wahhabism's war on the four Sunni madhab, on the madhabs. Wahhabism's war on the madhabs. That's the title, inshallah. And it's going to be very interesting. You're going to want to watch it for sure. Okay, let's talk about Qatar and this strike. So, again, this came completely out of nowhere. It's quite shocking that Israel would start striking Gulf countries. But at this point, like, what can you really expect? Let me pull up some footage of the bombing and you can watch it. I'm not sure why video is not playing. Sometimes Twitter acts up. I'm not sure why my video is not playing. How about this? Yeah, so you can see it wasn't like a massive, I guess, relative to what Israel is doing in Gaza. It's not like a massive bombing. Yeah, so this was video closer, you know, on the ground. And I don't know why the video is not playing. I don't know, Twitter is. Oh, yeah, well, there you go.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Sana hindi pumani yung kotse. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Sana hindi pumani yung kotse. Oh my God!
Okay, so that's on the street. So this came as a surprise to everyone. And the question is, who was really colluding? Like, who is collaborating on this strike? Because if we look at a map of the Middle East, obviously you have several countries that Israel has to fly over in order to get to Qatar. And so that's, here, I'll pull up a map. Let's pull it up. So you can see So flying through Jordan, flying through northern Saudi in order to get to Qatar. And Doha is on the eastern side of the country as well. So you have to fly through a lot of Qatar as well to get to the capital. So where are the air defense systems? The air defense systems will have to be alerted, or they'll have to be triggered by Israeli flyover unless they are told to stand down. And so these countries will have to stand down in order to allow these fighter jets to fly over. And what was also reported that was quite shocking is that even Qatar's air defenses were not triggered. So Qatar has a very advanced air defense system. And this was proven because Qatar was involved in shooting down some of the drones that Iran used against Israel back in the 12-day war earlier this year. So Qatar's air defenses are capable enough to shoot down Iranian drones, but when it comes to Israeli fighters flying into their country to strike within their country, suddenly the air defenses don't work. So that is quite disturbing. It's disturbing, and it raises big questions about, well, to what extent was Qatar involved in this, or to what extent did Qatar allow this to happen? So there was a Wall Street Journal report that where a White House source said that Israel informed the United States, the Trump administration, that they were going to undertake this strike. But Israel informed the United States after the fighter jets were in the air and they had launched their strike. That's when, just within an hour of the strike, that's when the U.S. was informed, and then the U.S. informed Qatar. This is the claim that is being reported from a source within the White House, and is being reported in the Wall Street Journal. Other sources earlier had said that Israel had informed the United States well in advance. They had a plan for this type of attack back in January of this year, but the Trump administration did not give them the green light. But they were able to get the green light now in September, and so they took the plan that they had to strike Hamas leadership within Qatar. They took that plan from January and then they implemented it today in September. And so that would indicate collusion with the United States well in advance, as opposed to a last-minute informing of the United States. There is also the claim that the ceasefire proposal that was given to Hamas leadership to consider by the United States, that was just a ploy to get the Hamas leadership meeting in Qatar, get them all in a central location to make it easier for Israel to conduct this decapitation strike within Qatar. So the United States using negotiation in order to get the leadership off guard and then assassinate them, so that Israel can assassinate them. And what makes this more plausible is the fact that the United States has done this with Iran. The United States, prior to the war in July, used negotiations and the pretext of ongoing negotiations with Iran to lull Iranians into a false sense of security before the surprise attack that Israel conducted to start that war, to start the 12-day war airstrikes in Iran. So the Trump administration is only too willing to use itself as a kind of decoy to lull these different groups into a false sense of security so that Israel can conduct a surprise attack. And clearly the United States is providing all kinds of intelligence to Israel. And even if the U.S. weren't willingly giving Israel intelligence. All of U.S. intelligence is infiltrated by Israel. So it wouldn't even matter. Israel could get everything it needed. And this is why there's no such thing as like a cooperation with the United States or an allyship with the United States. That's not also a de facto collaboration or concession to Israel, to the Zionist state. And it doesn't matter if it's Qatar or if it's Syria or Lebanon or whoever. All of these countries, all of the Middle Eastern countries, they fall for this type of good cop, bad cop routine. If you don't know what good cop, bad cop routine is that this is a trick that is played by police, for example, in trying to get information and get concessions from an alleged criminal. You have an alleged criminal that's in police custody, and there's this game that the police play. There is one police officer that's going to act tough. He's the bad cop. He's going to act tough. He's going to be like, we're going to get you. We're going to lock you up. You better cooperate with us. You better tell us everything that we want to know. You better give us everything that we want. That's the bad cop. And then there's a good cop who acts like a friend, who acts like, oh, don't worry about my partner here. He's a hothead. He's a little bit aggressive, but I'm your friend. I want to get you out of this. I want to help you. I'm on your side. He pretends to be an ally. He pretends to be an advocate. That's the good cop. But really, in reality, they're both coordinating. They're preying on your psychology so that you think, oh, I'm put off by the aggression of the bad cop. I am maybe frightened. I'm maybe scared of the bad cop. I don't want to be locked away. I don't want to be abused. So you just psychologically will reach out to any potential ally. You'll reach out psychologically. You'll build a kind of trust despite yourself with the good cop. The good cop seems like a friend. He seems like he's on your side. And so this is a psychological manipulation. You're going to start confiding in the good cop. You're going to start revealing certain things that you wouldn't otherwise reveal to the good cop because he seems like he is your ally and your friend. And it seems like the Middle Eastern countries all fall for this game. Israel is the bad cop. Israel is the one that is going to bomb you. And then the United States is your advocate, your ally. Oh, we're really not, we don't agree with Israel bombing Damascus. We don't agree with Israel bombing Doha, Qatar, and we're opposed to that. We're gonna do our best to rein Israel in. We're gonna do our best to protect you because this is unacceptable. we can't stand for this. They play the good cop, and because of that trust, because of that alliance that's created, this allows the Israel-U.S. entity collaboration to extract whatever they want from these Middle Eastern states. It's so obvious that this is the ploy, but you have many who are constantly advocating alliance with the United States, constantly advocating for very healthy diplomatic ties with the United States. And this means nothing other than being infiltrated by Israel. Same goes for Turkey, by the way. It's Turkey as a NATO partner, completely infiltrated by the United States. Therefore, you're infiltrated by Israel. You can't separate the two. So I can't believe that anyone would fall for this, but that's what we're seeing. So let me give you some background on Qatar, and then we'll consider. I want to know from you guys, what do you think? Do you think this was an inside job? Like, why would Qatar? Because there were some tankers, refueling tankers that lifted off from Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar, refueling tankers that refueled the Israeli jets so that they could fly back to Israel. So the tankers are taking off from Al Udeid Air Force Base, refueling the Israeli jets, and then landing back at El Udeid in Qatar. So how can that happen? Like, how can that take place? Like, the base that's in your country is refueling Israeli jets that are bombing your country. How can you stand for this? Like, how is this possible unless either there's collusion, either you're colluding with Israel, with United States and Israel and Qatar all colluding to strike Hamas, or you're just being humiliated. Like, this is just a humiliation ritual. Like, the reality of your country being completely occupied and completely controlled, like, that's being manifested. So which is it? Like, and which is worse? Like, which is worse? And maybe there's not like a clear answer to this, like, because like all governments in the Middle East, like, you have internal disputes, you have internal factions. And just like in other countries, even a country like Iran, you have certain reformists who they want better relations with the United States, and they want to continue negotiations with the United States, despite everything that they know, and the United States' coordination with Israel to launch a surprise attack against Iran and almost assassinate all of Iran's top leadership. You still have reformists in Iran who want to negotiate with the United States. So you have the reformists and you have the hardliners. The hardliners, quote unquote, who no, they understand the reality. Like, there's no negotiating with the United States. This is just a front for the Zionist entity. But in other countries as well, in Qatar as well, you could have a kind of factionalism where one side is advocating for more Western alignment, maybe more Israeli alignment, and the other faction that says, no, we have to be independent. We have to be more aligned with the East, with Iran, with China, and we have to be independent. We can't join forces with the United States. So then you can have internal divisions and that kind of complexity. So maybe there is no black and white answer. Maybe there were certain elements within the Qatari government that did have foreknowledge and did have coordination, and others who were against it. Allahu alam. Like, that kind of internal politics is opaque, especially when you have like monarchies, as opposed to large bureaucratic institutions that are more characteristic of Europe and the United States. But so that's a question that we want to look into. But what about the history? The recent history in Qatar, because it's very significant that this is happening while Trump is in office. Such a strike might not have been possible, probably wouldn't have been possible if it weren't Trump in office. And you'll recall that in 2017, a coalition of Saudi, the UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt put an economic and diplomatic blockade against Qatar. In 2017, the summer of 2017, and Trump came out and supported this blockade, and Trump even said that he inspired the blockade against Qatar in 2017. And the stated purpose of this blockade was to push Qatar away from extremism. Saudi had certain demands. Saudi, UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt, they had very specific demands for Qatar. If you want this blockade, this economic blockade to stop against your country, we have certain things that you have to do. Number one, you have to distance yourself and completely cut ties with the Muslim Brotherhood, with the Ikhwan. That includes Hamas, that includes Hezbollah, and you have to shut down Al Jazeera. You have to shut down Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is a source of extremism for our region. It's a source of instability. You need to shut down Al Jazeera. And you need to cut ties with Iran. You need to join us in isolating Iran. These were the main demands that were made of Qatar in 2017. And Donald Trump came out and backed this, backed the blockade. And he said that I inspired it because Donald Trump had gone in May earlier that year in 2017 to visit Saudi, and he had met with many of these Gulf rulers at that time. And Donald Trump claimed on Twitter that he was the inspiration for this blockade against Qatar. And we obviously know who's behind this, who's behind the isolation or the attempted isolation of Qatar. It's Israel, and it is these other Gulf monarchs coordinating. Why? Because they view Qatar as funding Ikhwan, funding the Muslim Brotherhood, which they have been doing, and they've been hosting the Hamas leadership from all the way back in 2012. So this is something that they viewed, especially coming out of the Arab Spring, that Qatar is a destabilizing force because it's destabilizing for Israel because they're funding and arming Hamas. It's destabilizing for Israel also because Qatar is aligned with Iran and has strong diplomatic and economic ties with Iran. And it's also destabilizing for Saudi. It's destabilizing for the UAE. It's destabilizing for Bahrain and Egypt. Why? Because you have Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is the main source of news coverage, amplifying the voice of the Arab Spring protesters and their cause. So Al Jazeera was targeted. Al Jazeera is hosted and funded by Qatar. That's their headquarters. So this was the purpose of the blockade in 2017, and it lasted to 2021. 4 years. Trump's entire term, Qatar was blockaded. Now Trump is back in office, and again, diplomatic pressure apparently has resumed. Now, it's a different environment. A lot has changed in 4 years. And we know that earlier this year, back in April, Trump was going to the GCC and visiting these different countries, Saudi, UAE, and Qatar. And Qatar gifted Donald Trump a $400 million 747 jet. Well, a luxury jet, $400 million worth, to be like the new kind of Air Force One backup for the president. And apparently this gift was coordinated by the U.S. They coordinated the entire deal, and Trump obviously accepted it. And Qatar has promised to invest over $1 trillion in the U.S. economy. So Qatar's strategy with this is to prevent a repeat of what happened in 2017. They want to maintain strong relations with Trump so that Trump isn't strong-armed by the other Gulf monarchies to back another type of blockade against Qatar. So Qatar is trying to play a 4D chess to prevent a repeat of the blockade. The blockade actually didn't work. The blockade back in 2017 to 2021 wasn't successful. Qatar survived, and according to some analysis, they came out stronger because they were able to develop certain independent capabilities. They strengthened their ties with Iran. They were able to survive economically. They strengthened ties with Turkey. So this actually backfired. The blockade backfired, and Qatar came out unscathed, and arguably they came out stronger than when the blockade started. But now in Trump's second term, it seems like Qatar wanted to avoid a similar type of diplomatic row with Donald Trump, and so they preemptively have made a lot of economic deals with the Trump administration so that Trump can tout these deals as a win for his administration and prevent any kind of further escalation. But what that means is that, okay, if Qatar is going to be more aligned with Washington, D.C., what does that mean for Hamas? What does that mean for any kind of Muslim Brotherhood aligned group? What does that mean for Al Jazeera and Al Jazeera's coverage of the war in Palestine? What does that mean for the politics of the region and the Muslim Brotherhood overall if Qatar is going to be increasingly aligned with Washington, D.C.? Because increased alignment with Washington, D.C. means increased alignment with Israel. That's the bad news. And that's why some are speculating that maybe Qatar has already made the decision to disavow and move away from Hamas. Maybe Qatar is saying, well, we read the writing on the wall. Hamas doesn't have a future. Israel has won the war. Israel is on the cusp of eliminating Hamas completely. And so we want to join the winning side. And we have very limited options because guess what? We have the massive occupation of U.S. forces in our country at Al Udeid Air Force Base. There are over 10,000 U.S. troops stationed in our country. So we have limited options. We might as well read the writing on the wall. And we need to start moving away from Ikhwan. We need to start aligning more with Washington, D.C. and the rest of the Gulf. Maybe this is a decision that has been made. I hope not. But maybe this is the kind of pressure that they're facing. And if that's the case, then you need a reason, like you need some kind of plausible excuse to start distancing yourself from Hamas. And maybe that excuse is, well, Israel is bombing Hamas in our country, and therefore to protect our sovereignty as a country and to protect our citizens, to protect our resources, we can no longer host Hamas. We can no longer serve this role as a neutral ground for negotiations with Hamas. Maybe they needed an excuse, and a bombing like this could provide that type of excuse. And that is an explanation. That is a potential explanation. And obviously it represents a betrayal. It would, if it were true, represent a betrayal of Qatar against the Palestinian resistance and the Muslim Ummah as a whole. Allahu Alam. I'm not saying that this is the case, but this is a possibility. This is a possibility, and some have noted that Hamas is a big liability for Qatar. If you look at Qatar's strategic or economic or diplomatic goals and its desire to continue to grow its GDP, then aligning with the rest of the Gulf would help it massively in those terms. So this is something that some are speculating, but Allahu Alam, I don't know. I'm not ready to throw Qatar under the bus or say that Qatar is completely bought out. Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. But I mean, this is a pattern that we see that some countries have decided to make that deal. The other big example is Syria. Syria is also being bombed in the past. Even today, Syria has been bombed. Last week, also, Damascus is being bombed by Israel. Israel is just conducting military operations freely within Syria, deep into Syrian territory. And the reports say that what Israel is bombing is that Turkey has transferred some military equipment into Syria for Syrian defenses, and Israel is not accepting that. Israel is preemptively bombing these resources, bombing this equipment to send a message to Turkey, send a message to Jolani that you're not allowed to have any kind of military equipment. You're not allowed to have any military infrastructure or any capabilities at all. And what does Syria do? Nothing. Like Syria doesn't have any kind of response to this as the IDF continues to encroach into the country, conduct raids into the country, arrest and detain and commit all kinds of crimes against the Syrian people. Is there a government in Syria that can defend the Syrian people? No, there's nothing. And the U.S., what does the U.S. say? The U.S. says that, oh, well, we don't want Israel to be doing this to Syria. Syria is working hard to eliminate extremism. Syria has already made us guarantees that there's not going to be any kind of Palestinian resistance group operating within Syria. We have all those guarantees. So there's no reason for Israel There's no threat to Israel from Damascus, so we don't approve. We don't agree with this kind of bombing. But we're not going to do anything to stop it. We're not. So, and this is the state of Syria. The state of Lebanon. I mean, Lebanon is also a complete joke. You have the leadership within the civil government within Lebanon who's demanding that Hezbollah completely disarm at the behest of the United States. So, and Hezbollah is resisting this, but how long can they resist these demands from the Lebanese government? So that's going to create potentially a civil war situation within Lebanon because the government wants Hezbollah to disarm. Who do you think that serves? Obviously, it serves Israel. So all of these governments, why is it that the decisions that they make and the moves that they make always serve Israel's interests, always serve the military aspirations of the Zionist state, always result in it being easier for Israel to control more and more territory, to put more and more of the Middle East under its boot? Why is, if all their decisions are always contributing to that, what does that tell you? What does that tell you about who's controlling these countries? Like, who's really in charge of these countries? Like, is there any doubt left? So these are occupied countries. These are Zionist occupied. And it's really hard to see it any other way. Like, how can you have any other perspective or analysis? So it's just humiliation ritual. It's humiliation ritual for the Muslim countries. So what's really the future? Seems like, unfortunately, things are going to get worse before they get any better. That's my diagnosis. Things are going to get worse. And yeah, you see these accounts on Twitter that are constantly talking about the collapse of Israel. Oh, Israel is on the cusp of a collapse. You know, maybe in the past, maybe last year at certain points, that was more believable, or that there was some kind of light at the end of the tunnel that we could see. But certain political events that have taken place have basically foreclosed that kind of optimism, as far as I'm concerned. And all of the people that have a positive outlook, some of these people, they're just shills for the United States. They're like, look at the shills that are really celebrating what's happening in Syria. Like, they're pretty quiet now, but they got everything that they wanted. If you recall, like, after the Syrian revolution, after Jolani comes into power, or as I call him, Goilani comes into power, they start advocating for more alliance with the United States. They start celebrating the fact that U.S. congressmen are coming and taking vacations and tours in Damascus. And from the beginning, I was saying, well, this is a clear sign that this revolution is completely bought and paid for by Washington, D.C. But they're saying, oh, Daniel, you're just an Iranian medkhali for saying this. You're just an Iranian medkhali for raising the red flag that Washington, D.C. is taking over Damascus. Like, you're just an agent. But obviously, this is just projection. Like, you're an agent of Washington, D.C. You're an agent of Washington, D.C. if you're advocating for a Muslim country to come into diplomatic ties with the United States, because diplomatic ties with the United States and giving the United States these guarantees means that you are going to be in the hands of Israel. Washington, D.C. is just going to gift wrap your country. Your Arab state is going to gift wrap it, put a bow on top, and hand it to Netanyahu. Like, that's... So anyone who is advocating for alliance with the United States should be seen as like a Tel Aviv agent, like a Tel Aviv bot. Like, that's essentially what you are. That's essentially what you are. And you're deceiving and duping your audience. And unfortunately, many Sunnis fall for it. Like, Fall For It Again award, like 75 years in a row? 75 years they've been winning this award. Longer, actually. Longer, because it goes back to British colonialism and French colonialism in the 19th century. So, Fell For It Again award. We're gonna ally with the United States, and we're gonna have all of this economic prosperity. It's gonna work this time, guys. It's gonna work. We just have to be good little Arabs, good little Muslims, peaceful. We have to make sure to say Islam is peace, and sign the deal. Sign the deal, and we'll get the Starbucks, we'll get the McDonald's, and we will enjoy economic prosperity. You know, it's a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal. Yeah, sure, we'll have to open up a military base for U.S. soldiers to come. And they'll give us, the U.S. is going to give us fighter jets and tanks. You know, we're going to have a massive army with the state-of-the-art equipment. The thing is that with this Qatar bombing, Qatar, they have an impressive air force capabilities and air defense. Oh, so impressive, and tanks. And even if Qatar wanted to use those against Israel, they can't, because all of that equipment has remote shutoff. All of that equipment can be remotely controlled by the United States. And do you think the United States is going to allow Qatar to attack Israel, to hurt like even a hair on one Israeli's head using United States equipment? You think that's possible? It's not even possible. Even if they had the will, it's not even possible, because everything has a remote shutoff. Do people not know this about US weapons? That all of these Arab countries are flush with US weapons that they've spent billions of dollars for. It's not like Israel. Israel gets these weapons for free. The Arab states, they have to pay a lot of money to get access to these kinds of weapons. But these weapons are just for show. These weapons are just for show or repressing your local Muslim population. That's what it's for. It's not for actually defending the country from an air attack, from an airstrike from Qatar, or from Israel, rather. So this is the humiliation that all of these countries are undergoing. And what did all these countries say? Oh, we condemn Israel. Oh, how dare you, Israel? How dare you strike our country? Well, this is really bad. Shame on you. Tisk, tisk. We do not approve, says Saudi. Says the UAE. Tisk, tisk. We do not approve of this, says Bahrain. Like, so you open up the airspace. You opened up your airspace to Israeli fighter just flying through your country. You open up your airspace, and then you condemn. Like, this is beyond a joke. This is beyond a farce. Who falls for this? Like, you know. So it's hard to. These are levels of humiliation that are hard to fathom. Okay, guys, so I want to hear what you have to say. If you have any super chats, feel free to submit them right now, and we'll go through them. I just wanted to give you some brief historical analysis and give my thoughts on the situation. It's depressing, you know. BNZ, thank you. BXZ, thank you for your big super chat. Qatar should ask for a refund of the 1.3 trillion jizya they paid Trump for protection. Yeah, I mean, this is not going to happen. But again, like, we have to wonder to what extent was Qatar had foreknowledge and collusion with this strike. Obviously, it's not something that they would ever admit, but we have to wonder, like, why did their air defenses not trigger with Israel violating their airspace. But yeah, the money, like giving money to the United States, like, I mean, if it's jizya, I think that's an apt description for it. It means that you have no power. Like, you have no power. They can take as much as they want. Anything that they want is for the taking. That's the reality that we have to acknowledge about the state of the Muslim world. Like, most of the Muslim countries, like, you think that it's a Muslim country in the sense that the Muslim people own the land, they own the resources, they own the wealth that is produced by the country, but you don't. Like, the Muslims don't own any of that. All of that has been usurped and controlled by an elite that just hands it over to the West. It hands it over to the West, to the United States, to Europe, to Israel, for their own, for pennies. So they get crumbs. The elites get the crumbs. The people get nothing, and the West gets whatever they want. So 1.3 trillion in jizya, that's nothing. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So their only solution is countries to actually have a backbone, have a spine, like take measures. How about cutting off diplomatic ties? How about putting economic sanctions? Like, this is what they do to us. They do this to the Muslim world. They put us under economic sanctions. They cut diplomatic ties. They make deals with your enemies to create division. But the Muslim countries don't engage in any of this. If they don't engage in any kind of resistance, what does that tell you? Like, what is the obvious implication of that? That means you have literally zero control, like zero ability. So it's very depressing to realize that what countries do we have? Muslims have no land. Muslims have no. Yeah, there might be pockets, like, fine, I won't make a absolutist statement. You have certain countries that are resisting. Obviously, Palestine is resisting. But, and this is why, like, amongst other things, like the idea of hijrah. Like, hijrah, if I imagine, like, Muslims wanting to make hijrah to one of these Gulf countries, or one of these other US-aligned countries. I'm basically, if I wanted to make hijrah from the U.S., I'm going from one Zionist-occupied country to another Zionist-occupied country. That's, and in fact, you're going to a Zionist-occupied country where there's less protection for you as a U.S. citizen. If you're a U.S. citizen, if you're in the U.S., at least there's some kind of protection. There's some kind of, at least, veneer of due process. Israel can't just come and start bombing your house in the United States. At least not yet. At least not yet. Maybe that's going to change in short order. But if you, as a U.S. citizen, go to anywhere else in the world, literally anywhere else, then you're fair game. Like, you're fair game, and the U.S. is not going to protest you being murked by Israel. That's just a fact. Muslim Boogeyman, thank you, bro, for your super chat. Shafed Bolstein, this was a 5D chess move by Qatar to own Israel. Don't be a low strata, brother. Yeah, probably that's his analysis. Ridwan says, at this point, African Muslims should be in charge of the Ummah. We need a leader like Uthman Dan Fodio to lead the Ummah, not Wahhabi like MBS or Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. African Muslims, yeah, the leadership of the Ummah can come from any place, any nationality, ethnicity, race. Who is going to really lead the Ummah? It's the ones who have taqwa, the ones who have fear of Allah. They fear Allah, they don't fear people. They don't violate the laws of Allah for a paltry gain in the dunya. That's going to be the leadership. And the future of the ummah in terms of leadership, it's going to be someone who, a person or people who they don't make these practical determinations, these practical calculations. Pragmatism has limits in Islam, and you have to consider the actual laws of Islam, the principles of Islam, that you won't violate even if it's practical to do so. So, for example, you're a Muslim country and the United States and Israel comes and starts killing Muslims in your country. Is that allowed Islamically? Like, you're the host country and Muslims are getting killed. You have obligations. You have obligations as a Muslim country, as a Muslim land, to protect the Muslims that are being hosted in your country. You have responsibilities to protect them and to retaliate, to deter any type of strikes against Muslims in your country. But if you're just, pragmatic, you'll say that, well, that's going to result in war, and war is bad for the economy. Many are going to suffer. Many are going to die. So we want to avoid war at all costs. War is always going to be impractical. But Islam doesn't accept this. Islam says that sometimes you have to engage in war. Sometimes you have to. You have no choice but to take up arms. And your pragmatic calculation is not applicable here. And this is what Muslims need to start understanding. If you're only going to make decisions on the basis of what is pragmatic, on a pro-con, like positives versus negative calculation, war and taking up arms is always going to be a net negative in the short term. You're going to have to suffer. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to give up dunya. But you have to do it for the sake of Allah, because Allah commands it. And that's why it's the ultimate test. That's why jihad is the ultimate test of your ability to put aside the dunya for the sake of Allah, fi sabilillah. So the future leaders and the countries that will be the future leaders of the ummah are the ones who won't be pragmatic. They won't be pragmatic in the sense of making a decision like, we have to go to war, we have to fight, we have to say enough is enough, that enough Muslims have died, enough of our sovereignty has been violated, enough of our dignity has been trampled, and we're not going to stand for it anymore. The people who are going to make that decision, the Muslims that are going to make that decision in the future, those are the ones who are going to be the leaders of the ummah. And that's for a country to decide, an organized military to decide, not like a vigilante, not like a, Joe Schmo in his basement. That's something for an organized military to make that decision and to make that call and to coordinate. And that's what we're going to see the future leaders engage in. Everyone else is going to be co-opted. Everyone else is going to be pragmatic. They're going to just be make their pragmatic decision and choose dunya over akhirah. Like that's the result. That results in the humiliation that we're suffering today. Let's see. Dawa Trucker, thank you for your super chat, brother. Really appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum, Daniel. Hope you're well. You've mentioned the exact word with which I describe what those Arab elites are doing with the lives of Muslims all over the Middle East, including East and North Africa. Chess. We were playing chess. So are you saying that they're doing the right thing, or they're like making moves that we just don't understand? Dower Trucker also says, the Zion Nazis, it's real hell, are pulling the strings. They're the puppeteer, and the foolish Arab rulers are the puppets. Fortunately, all indications point to that. Would a Palestinian man benefit from moving to the U.S. as opposed to living under the Israeli government? Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't know how you can live in Israel for many reasons. One, we don't have, like, the US doesn't have an apartheid system that systematically oppresses Palestinians and Arabs. So, at least not to the same extent that you find in Israel, of all places. So, if you have the ability to move from uh, Israel occupied Palestine to the US, then I would do that. Any other comments? Let me check if there's any news. I mean, this is a huge disaster for Qatar. Qatar is, they hosted the World Cup just a few short years ago, and they were trying to mimic maybe some of the UAE's tourism model, like to become like a tourism destination in the Gulf, like a lot of money, a lot of investment from that economically they could benefit. But if they're a country that gets bombed, then that will have a huge hit on their tourism market and investment market. So that's a good argument against the fact that they might have colluded in this strike. So it's hard to tell. The fact that the strike wasn't successful, maybe like someone internally in Qatar tipped them off, tipped off Hamas not to go to a certain location. Maybe. It's just, yeah, it's a depressing situation. Like, stability of Qatar. A lot of people are also saying Turkey is next. What's stopping? We've already seen the kind of hostility increasing between Turkey and Israel, not only with the Syrian situation, but just in general. There seems to be a lot of hostility coming from Ankara against Tel Aviv. And maybe there's going to be retaliations. You have a lot of commentators and politicians within the Israeli Knesset who are saber rattling against Turkey, saying that Turkey needs to be punished, that Turkey is also collaborating with Hamas somehow. But so maybe there's going to be some kind of sabotage or bombing or something that is directed against Turkey. And obviously, Turkish targets are being hit by Israel in Syria. So who knows if that's going to extend to the Turkish mainland. But Yeah, a lot of people are memeing Qatar. They're like clowning on Qatar right now. They're posting pictures of the Qatari like Air Force, like, oh, look at these advanced fighter jets, the most advanced fighter jets in the Middle East, but they can't prevent a bombing of the capital. It's very very disappointing. And I have like a bunch of Qatari accounts on Twitter like spamming in the replies. Fortunately, like nationalism is such a retardation, like it's mental retardation if you're a nationalist. And the only thing that you can understand is like we have to defend our nation no matter what, like whatever our nation does, and we have to assume like that's the relationship that unfortunately people have, the Middle Easterners have, and Muslims generally have in these nations with their governments. It's like a parasocial type of relationship. Like we have this undying loyalty and our governments can do nothing wrong. Never would the beloved ruler do anything wrong or contrary to our interests. Like this kind of it's like beyond naivete. It's like mental retardation. So you can't objectively analyze anything. You can't objectively analyze what's actually happening in your country, like who's really pulling the strings. And you can't be critical. Absolutely no criticality, no putting two and two together. You just going to have a knee-jerk, nationalistic response. So this is when your loyalty is to a government, like all of these are, you know, secular, partially secular governments, allied and working with the biggest enemies of Islam and Muslims, who are literally genociding Muslims as we speak. So you have instead of having loyalty to Islam, instead of having loyalty to the Ummah, to the Muslims, you have loyalty to this type of government because of nationalism. This is if you fall into this category, into this boat, then we have to insult you. We have to call you retarded. We have to laugh at you and shake our heads in pity. Okay, I think there's another super chat here. Dawa Trucker says, Brother Daniel, playing chess with the lives of Muslims is never good for any Muslim. True. That's clarifying your earlier tweet, super chat. Ryan says, where in the U.S. would you recommend to live? Probably your best bet is to live close to other Palestinians. So there are Palestinians who live all over the U.S. But just in terms of culturally, you need a lot of support. You need family support. You need to move to the U.S. So there are a lot of Palestinians in the New Jersey area, for example. But any of the major cities, you have a big Palestinian contingent. You have to do like research from any kind of Palestinian context that you have. So all the peace mediations by Qatar were all smoke screens. I wouldn't say all of them were smoke screens, but I think that it's just evolving. Like Qatar's relationship with Washington, D.C. has been evolving, and that's going to have implications for any type of Hamas standing within the country. Clippus Maximus says, I'd like to see Muslim countries align with China. U.S. exports destruction, China exports development. I don't believe China is harming Uyghurs. I suspect U.S. propaganda to keep us from uniting. Obviously, China, there's always going to be problems with allying with any given non-Muslim nation. China also ultimately doesn't have the best interests of Muslims at heart. So any kind of alignment, any kind of deal that is made between Muslims and non-Muslims has to be provisional, has to be conditional. So can Muslims use deals and alignment with China or Russia as leverage against the United States and Israel? Yes, I do think that that's possible. I've advocated it before, and you have many countries that have tried to align with China in order to protect themselves from the United States. So, but if there were no other choice except the alignment with United States versus China, I go with China every time. The amount of destruction that has been wrought by the United States dwarfs anything that has been done by China, at least for the past 200 years, against Muslims. All right. Not seeing any other chats. All right, guys. Appreciate you paying attention and watching the reaction stream. I'll see if there's any more developments. Maybe we'll have another stream later this week. But if not, there's going to be a debate on Thursday. I'll be debating a Jew, and we'll be talking about Greater Israel. We'll be talking about the Jewish religion in depth. So it's going to be a moderated debate. Make sure to watch that live. It's going to be about the same time. You'll see I'll post the exact timing, inshallah, on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you have the notification bells checked. And we're also going to have a debate next week, Monday, with a Christian, Avery of God Logic, on the autistic dilemma. That's going to be an interesting one. Pretty much debated all of the top Christian apologists. I don't know if Avery is considered a top apologist, but he's definitely a rising apologist. So it'll be good to clash with him, inshallah. And it'll be exciting. So next Monday, set your calendar for that as well. And that's our show. So thank you everyone for watching. Inshallah, I will see you all very soon on the next episode of Haqiqatjou, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.